Good morning, Year 3. How are you? I hope you enjoyed yesterday's English lesson based on the black hat and you liked designing your special magical creatures that might come out of the hat. I've seen some lovely photos of all your wonderful ideas, so really well done with those. Lots of fantastic adjectives used, lots of really bright colours used, and it really was a pleasure to look at all of those photos. Okay, don't worry if you haven't sent any in, it really doesn't matter. Okay, I'm sure you've done a fabulous job with your characters. Okay, now today and tomorrow we're going to be planning today and then writing a story tomorrow. Okay, and I will help you with how to write your story in tomorrow's English video and PowerPoint. Okay, but today we're going to be using the black hat and what you've been watching to plan a story. And I've said here, remember, a good story is a bit like a mountain. Okay, so that means we start off with our introduction, where we introduce the characters. Then we build up all the way to the top of the mountain to a problem. So something that's going to go a bit wrong in your story. Then the problem gets resolved, which means it gets solved, it gets sorted out. And then there's an ending to your story. Okay, so as we go through the video, you might like to pause in different bits to jot down ideas for your plan. So on the next page, there's a planning template with the beginning, build-up, problem, resolution and ending. So you could print out this page if you've got access to a printer. If not, you could just put the title planning template and then put each of these titles as we do it so that you've got a plan for tomorrow. Okay? Right, here we go then. So, in your introduction, so your beginning, what I want you to think about is who is your main character. So you might have a boy still, like in the Black Hat film, okay? It might be a boy that's going to stay at his grandma's house, or you could change, it could be a girl who's gone to stay with a relative, okay? So that's the first thing you need to jot down, so who your main character is. Now, when you're planning, remember, you don't need to write full sentences. It's just ideas which will help you with your story. So you might put a young boy who has gone to stay with his granny. Okay, maybe a young lonely boy who's gone to stay with his granny. Okay, or you might change it to a girl. That's up to you. Then, the next thing I want you to think about is what object do they find in the woods? Or doesn't have to be a woods, it could be the seaside, it could be near the oceans, or it could be in a busy city. Up to you, okay? But the next thing, so what object do they find? So the boy finds a black hat, doesn't he? Maybe your character finds a lovely new pair of shoes that they find in the wood or by the sea, and that has magical powers. Maybe they find a magical bag or a magical flower, or if they're at the beach, maybe a magical shell. Okay, so it's up to you what object is found. Okay, the next thing though, make sure you say in your plan where they find a magical object. Okay, so if your character, maybe you've got a young boy who's gone to stay with his grandma by the sea, and maybe he's walking along the beach and he finds a magical shell to take home. Maybe it's a girl and she's gone to stay with her aunt and she goes for a walk in the woods and she finds an unusual flower which she takes home. Okay, so on your planning sheet or on your piece of paper, you can either write beginning or introduction. Just make a few notes for that section. Okay, use these questions to help you. Okay, and pause the video now and have a go at that. Brilliant. Okay, how did you get on with that? I can't wait to see all the characters that you've come up with and all the new magical objects. Okay, now we're going to do the build-up in our story. Okay, so if you put another title on your paper, build-up, and then we'll have a go at this one together. So now we need to think, what does the new magical object do? Now, the boy's black hat, that makes lots of new birds and butterflies and creatures, doesn't it, overnight? Okay, so I want you to think, what does your object do? What does it make overnight? Okay, it will be easier for you if you stick to the black hat story, in that out of your magical object comes some creatures. Okay, so you could have that out of your object comes the creatures that you designed in yesterday's lesson. So lots of new birds and butterflies and worms and things. Okay, so on your planning sheet, if you put some notes about what comes out of the magical object, what the creatures look like, okay, add some adjectives to describe them. We've done a lot of work this week on adjectives, and I've been very impressed in the work I've seen with all the fantastic adjectives that you've used. Okay, and then one final thing to note down in the build-up box is, how does the character feel when he sees, or when she sees, the new creatures? So the boy, I think he feels a bit speechless, a bit amazed, a bit excited to see all these creatures. So you could add some of those feelings into your build-up box. Okay, right, so if you pause the video now, have a go at the build-up box. So things to think about: what comes out of the new magical object, what creatures, what do they look like, and how does this make the character feel? Okay, you might like to add when, at what time do they come out of the object? Maybe you could stick to the black hat story and have the objects come out at night when the boy is sleeping, or the girl. Okay, have a go at that now. Brilliant, everybody. Okay, now this is when you're going to get to the top of your mountain in your story. You're going to get to the problem. So in the black hat, the problem is that the creatures escape, don't they? The boy keeps them in cages, but the birds manage to escape out of the cages. So your problem could be similar to the boy's problem in the black hat. Maybe your character has kept the animals caged up in the house, okay, just so that they can keep them in the house, and so that they don't lose them, because they want to look at them and see how beautiful they are. So maybe your character just wakes up one day, goes to look at the animals in the cage, and they've gone, they've escaped. Okay, so have a think what your problem could be. Okay, and then how does it make your character feel? Now, the boy in the black hat, he was absolutely devastated. He was so sad, wasn't he, when he realised the birds had gradually flown away one by one. It really made him sad. Okay, your character, I think, would feel really sad if those animals have suddenly disappeared and they've gone. Okay, so pause the video now and have a little go at your problem section. Okay, what's going to go wrong in your story? Remember, just a few notes will be brilliant. Okay, not full sentences. Fantastic. I can't wait to read all of your problems in your story. Okay, now the resolution. So a resolution is when something gets resolved, which means sorted out. Okay, the problem gradually begins to disappear. Now, in the black hat video, the boy begins to realise that actually it's not the best idea to keep the animals and the beautiful birds locked up in cages. Okay, because birds like to be flying outside, don't they, in the fresh air. So the boy realises that, and he actually lets all the animals go, doesn't he? Okay, so maybe your character realises that actually the best thing to do is to let the animals go and release them into the forest or by the sea, or back where they belong. Okay, so on the resolution section of your plan, make a few notes about how your problem gets solved. Okay, brilliant. And then finally, I want you to think about where your story is going to end. Okay, does it have a happy ending? The black hat definitely has a happy ending because the boy has realised that actually these animals want to be outside in the fresh air flying around. So he's released them and he can still see them whenever he wants to. He can just go into the forest to have a look at them. So you could do something similar for your story. You could have a happy ending where even though the animals are no longer inside the house, but they're still outside and you are able to see them whenever you want to, like the boy from the black hat. Okay, now if you want to have more ideas, you can watch the video again, okay, or watch me talking through the lesson again to help you. So remember, your plan should have 5 sections to it, okay, and you're thinking of reinventing the black hat story a little bit, so changing the object, changing the main character, changing the creatures that come out of your object, okay, and just making it a little bit more of your own story. Okay then, fantastic. So in tomorrow's lesson, it will be time to write all of your brilliant stories, and I will do another video to talk you through how to write it, give you some ideas of words you could use, of sentence openers you could use, and things like that. Okay, so happy planning. I can't wait to read your stories that you write in Friday's lesson. Okay, brilliant everyone.